So let me get this thing started. I want to welcome everybody to our 7th episode of the EnergyBin Insights. This is a webinar series that explores solutions for PV repair, resale, and recycling. And I want to thank you all for joining us today. So thank you. Now, my name is Rob Van Demeltrot. I'm the sales manager at EnergyBin. Now, we are an online business community of solar professionals who are committed to accelerating a robust and sustainable secondary market. Our members collaborate, via trade, networking, educational activities like this webinar. And these webinars are really made in collaboration with industry professionals like yourself out there. We encourage you to join EnergyBin to help support these efforts to buy and sell equipment on a safe trading platform and to network with your industry peers. Now, also, subscribe to EnergyBin's YouTube channel to access these recordings for this episode and, of course, previous webinars and future webinars. So today, I'm actually pretty excited because our presentation highlights on solar systems end of life, including to support landfill diversions of PV modules and planning for decommissions. These are a lot of questions myself and a lot of our reps here at EnergyBin get. Now, we have a last-minute change in our speakers today, and we appreciate Ms. Alexandra Harrison joining us today. Alexandra is the Executive Vice President and General Manager at Ontility. She will lead us in a general discussion on factors that affect the system's life cycle and the major steps that take place in planning and implementing a decommission. Now, I've known Alex for several years now, as Ontility has been a longtime EnergyBin member, and Alex is an expert when it comes to end-of-life management solutions for residential, commercial, and utility scale projects. So before I get Alex started, we want to make sure that we start, and we want you to be confident to ask questions as we go. We want to thank to those who have already submitted questions in advance, and we have time at the end of the presentation to answer some of these questions, okay? Also, this slide deck is available at the link provided in the chat box. But let me take the moment to now welcome Alex and thank you for being here, Alex.
Rob, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. I'm going to put a little warning in front of everybody that I have had a little bit of unstable internet connection. So if it does freeze, I will start again. So appreciate the understanding and the support for me being here.
Yeah, and I'm going to interject before we get going here, Alex, because Alex is actually remote. You're not in your office in Houston. You are located at a remote location, or
yes, I'm in Reynosa, Mexico today.
Oh, okay, nice. And I take it not sunbathing.
No, I'm not. I'm learning more about our remanufacturing here at BBB Industries, which we'll talk a little bit about soon.
Okay. Now, Alex, I can see this is a great looking group you have here for the images. Can you tell me a little bit about how you got started at Ontility?
Yeah, absolutely. So I started in my solar career in an install company in Houston in 2008. After a couple of years working through the installation world, I shifted over to Ontility to help manage strategic accounts and marketing. And then from there, over the years, I've taken over sales and purchasing and operations, have really gotten to kind of support the group as a whole.
Okay, gotcha. Alex, can you give the audience maybe a quick rundown of Ontility's history?
Sure, absolutely. So we started in 2009 as more of a pure play distributor. We shifted our model in probably about 2012, 2013 to really focus more on the brokering excess transactions. We saw a huge demand in the industry and a lot of product available to move around here domestically. In November 2021, our solar group was acquired by BBB Industries under TerraPower, the newly formed sustainable division. So we have really ramped up in our brokering, and then we've added on and expanded to really include more of our remanufacturing of use modules as well.
Gotcha. So obviously Ontility's got a lot of experience. Can you tell me a little bit more about your team's current perspective or their perspective on this current market? Because it is a different marketplace right now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So overall, the market is strong. I think probably most people on this call are pretty well aware of where the market is. We're tracking it via that light blue column that shows no tariffs hitting on a big scale, most likely, and also the ITC being extended through the Inflation Reduction Act. So what we view this as is we're going to have a massive uptick of installs throughout the US. And we're going to see a lot of people needing a lot of panels. And in terms of kind of the second life and end of life aspect of our jobs, well, the way we view it is more panels, more problems. So more panels out in the elements, the more panels we're going to see have issues and need repair and reselling into the market.
Okay. So what role does Ontility play then in this market that you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have used this market data, which just shows an increase regardless of what happens, as really be able to expand our offering into the secondary market. So we view the secondary market not only as new modules, but also the used modules. So we kind of view it under both. But outside of lifecycle, we've rolled out this new platform where we are offering solar product solutions. So that's everything from new, used, inverters, all of the components down to energy storage. Solar design solutions, I like to call this that's the brain of our group. That's our engineering team. They handle design, engineering, site surveys, consulting. And then what we'll focus on today is our lifecycle solutions. So this is where we have introduced remanufacturing of solar components, as well as recycling. And then most importantly, the resell back into the industry and how that looks like and how that's evolved over the last 10 years.
Okay, let me ask you a question. Why is the secondary market good for the solar industry?
So yeah, I think, it's been essential to many industries worldwide. And I think solar is really no exception, due to the recent tariffs, pandemic, the massive supply chain issues. Right now, the secondary market plays a very important role in this volatile market. Okay. So I think we jumped over to our lifecycle solutions. So we'll jump into this a little bit. Can we go back one slide, please? Melissa, thank you. So we've talked a little bit about the lifecycle solutions as being a kind of a new or expanded division that we've really developed since we were brought under the TerraPower group. Really what we're doing here is we're handling and managing panels facing second life and end of life services. So we talk about it sometimes just as decommissioning. But what we wanted to do is more closely define, where these panels are coming from so we can understand more about the panels, and then look at really what are the solutions, right? Like what can we do with these panels depending on where they're sourced from? So I think first let's dive into where, right? Where do we find them from? First up is repower. So repower, we define that as on the next slide as existing solar systems that are upgraded with new higher wattage panels. So these are fully functioning, good condition panels. We're seeing in the market around that 10 to 12 year age span. Usually they're lower wattage, that kind of 200, maybe even lower than 200 to 250 range. But these panels were purchased several years back at a much higher price point than they can be purchased now. And so what we're seeing is people wanting to upgrade their systems for higher efficiency, increased production, and just more favorable financial models.
Okay, so how can, I guess, Alex, tell us a little bit more about how a customer can benefit financially then.
Sure. So I think historically people have been taking these panels off and they think that they're bad and old and they're no longer usable. I think over the last 10 years, people have started to see that really these panels still have a lot of life left in them. They are warranted between 20 to 30 years, depending on the panel manufacturer. They're still working, they're still in great condition. So what Ontility does is we come in, we evaluate the panels, We look at the testing of the panels, both on-site as well as in our factories. And then we're able to actually buy these panels and pay the panel owners money for the panels to basically reduce their overall cost in the repower project. And then, kind of jumping over to the next where is decommissioning. So very similar to repower. Decommissioning, we use the actual definition of decommissioning, which is to actually remove the system and not replace it. This can happen for a variety of reasons. We've got some customers who have purchased buildings that have solar systems and they need to be removed for demolishing the building to rebuild. It could be a change in ownership of land. Lots of reasons to do this, but we are seeing a lot of decommissioned sites as well right now.
Wait a minute. So you're telling me you're going to buy these panels too?
I think I broke up a little bit, Rob. Where did I leave off here?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was asking, will you buy these panels as well then?
From the decommissioned sites? Yes, absolutely. Very similar to repower. They're in great condition. They still usually have a lot of life left. And we can definitely, in most cases, help offset some of that decommissioning cost.
Okay.
Yeah. And then our final where is claims. So this is probably pretty obvious to a lot of people on the call, but panels removed due to underperformance or damage. We include natural disaster, installation and transportation breakage, underperformance, aligning with the manufacturer workmanship warranties, any issue you may find with a panel on site or in process of being put on site. And I think with the ramp up of panels being installed out in the elements, we're just going to continue to see upticks in claim panels.
Okay. Well, so let me ask you this question. So you're saying people can really make money on these broken panels? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So what we've done at Ontility, which is really driven by TerraPower sustainable remanufacturing capabilities, is we will pay for broken solar panels. And really try to give them a true second life back into the market. But Rob, you might be thinking that sounds too good to be true. That panel on the left there is shattered via a hailstorm. You'd be right. At this point, not every panel can be saved. And that's where we've really been introducing our responsible recycling solutions, which do come at a cost to the end user.
Okay. So you mentioned you can remanufacture these broken panels. What can you share more about how you do that? I guess I'm trying to get a better grasp of how you remanufacture these broken panels.
Sure, Rob. Yeah, that leads us into talking a little bit more about like what we do, right? We've talked about where they come from. Now, once we get the panels, what do we do with them? I think first and most importantly is we're looking at how we can reman. So we define this as sorting, cleaning, testing, and repairing solar panels. So we can sort on site, or we can sort at our over 200,000 square foot sustainable remanufacturing facility in Tennessee. Once we receive those panels in, they get processed through a washing system. You can see that in the middle picture there in the background.
Yeah.
And then we test the panels. We have a couple of different testing options depending on how the panels perform. And then we have multiple lines within our facility where we can actually repair the panels and remanufacture them to put them back out into the market. Those capabilities include things like new back sheets, straightened frames, repairing or replacing J boxes, replacing or repairing the cables or the connectors. We see a lot of cut cables in the field. One thing that we're still working on, it's kind of a constant evolution of what we do at Ontility and TerraPower, is continue to do research and development around how we can be more efficient and effective to completely remanufacture solar panels. So while we can't change the glass or the cells at an efficient rate, we have done it, so we can see it being done as well in the future.
Okay, who are buying these remanufactured panels? Alex, let me ask you that question.
Yeah, so initially we saw really small players, one-off website sales, but really over the last 7 to 10 years that we've been involved in this, we've seen a huge uptick where everyone is looking at how they can use these used modules within their applications. I think people understand how solar panels work. They understand the reliability, they understand the potential, and the life that the solar panel has left.
Now, what if these broken panels can't be fixed? Can't be resold? What do you do? It can't be repaired or resold?
Yeah, so listen, we understand, why our model is, save every solar panel. There are some that are going to not be saved, that we're going to have to recycle. So what we've done is we've got recycling available, where we're seeing a lot of panels come off with hailstorms or these that are totally shattered. However, what we're trying to shift people's perspective is a long time manufacturer warranty issues like cracked back sheets and degradation. We're going straight to recycling. And what we're really trying to do is trying to shift from trash and recycling to remanufacturing. Our kind of catchphrases and goal is landfill diversion, right? That's right now our top competitor is the dumpster. It's the cheapest option, and that's what we're really trying to help support and drive costs down to make recycling, remanufacturing, and reselling the key here.
Wow. So it sounds like your team has obviously handled a lot of these types of projects. Is there maybe one example or one that really stands out for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So this project we've done, I would say, just due to the sheer volume of panels that we processed, kind of put us on the map. We had done containers and a couple megawatts here and there prior to 2019. But over a few months between 2019 and 2020, we processed over 250,000 panels that were cleared off-site from a hailstorm in West Texas. Of those 250,000 panels, 220,000 were spot tested and resold back into the market. And then about 30,000 had to be recycled. We were really brought in to handle the full kind of end-to-end logistics, obviously coordinating teams and the deinstallation. And then we had almost 300 trucks that came on and off site, in the months of December, January, and February. So we had to take into consideration rain and wind. West Texas winds are pretty brutal. So we had to do a lot of work on that. But what we were able to do overall was really support this customer, not only with the deinstallation and support, but also we were able to actually provide them new secondary market panels to replace their panels as well.
Fantastic. Wow, that's awesome. Now, you mentioned something about remanufacturing as well. Have you any examples from that perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we truly believe in what we're building as a company and organization. And so as a part of that, we installed about a 500 kW system of sustainably remanufactured panels next to our Sparta, Tennessee remanufacturing plant. And really sustainability is kind of at the heart of our strategy. Not only are we investing in Tennessee, but we're also evaluating solar for all of our facilities worldwide.
Wait a minute here. So this picture, this example I'm looking at, you're talking about a 0.5 megawatt of all remanufactured panels. Is that what I'm seeing here?
That's correct.
Wow.
So that's right next to our plant there.
That's impressive. That truly is impressive. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alex, what are some tips you like the audience members to take from this presentation? Maybe that's a good question to ask.
Yeah, sure, Rob. So we've got a lot of, I'd say, kind of tips or do's and don'ts, both based on whether you're here to buy solar panels or if you're here to actually deinstall or maybe move solar panels into the market. So we'll start with the buy side, right? Really basic, but it's missed a lot of the times, is just ask questions, right? Ask questions about the product. Yep. Every product has a story. Ask where it came from, what happened to it, who owns it. Get photos, right? Photos do a lot of justice to understanding what the product is. Always, of course, vet your sources. Who are they within the network of selling the panel? There can be a lot of people connected, and there can be a lot of great resources connected that are very viable sources to buy from. But spend a little time asking all the questions. They should be able to answer them. And most importantly, get it in writing. At Ontility, we pride ourselves in very transparent quotes and transactions. So whatever the panel has wrong with it, we will mark that on our quote. So the customer should know this is a secondary panel. It was maybe in a field for a while. It's new versus used, the condition, pictures. All that's really important when you're buying panels, regardless of used or new. And then in the deinstallation side, I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned. I think the first one is everyone's finding out, right? Don't wait until the end. If you're installing systems, start thinking about it now. You're going to have a plan in place. And then my favorite is ditch the dumpster, right? If you have a project and the dumpster is the cheapest, I challenge you to call us to see if we can support your efforts in any way possible. There is a lot of viable options. We're driving costs down across the board, whether it's recycling, paying you for panels, reselling the panels into the market. Let us help you. And then handle with care. If you're deinstalling systems, take an extra minute. Make sure your crews understand to properly disconnect the connectors. Don't throw the panels on the ground. Take an extra second to actually set them down on a pallet. Those panels will have a higher value if they're in excellent condition when they're deinstalled. And then I think most important, experience matters. We're fortunate to be in an industry where we've got some good people in the industry that we work alongside with as well. So ask the question, get references, and obviously always give us a call to kind of support any efforts that you're going underway with.
Alex, those are all solid tips and advice for everybody. And I'm actually really appreciative because, again, like I said at the beginning of the presentation, these are a lot of questions we get asked all the time about decommissioning or repurposing or repowering. So I do want to thank you, Alex, for the detailed presentation. We don't have all the time in the world, but I do want to move into the question and answer portion of the webinar. So before I go into the first question, I would like to thank, we're getting a lot of questions online and we love to answer all of them. And we will, so we're going to most likely follow up with you or ask you to submit the questions back to EnergyBin or Alex or both of us. And we'll do our very best to answer if we can't get to them here online. Okay. All right, Alex, are you ready for the first question?
I'm ready for it.
Okay. This comes from David Moya from SoCal Solar. He's asking, what do you think panels, why do you think panels will be decommissioned in 20 to 25 years when most panels have a 25-year warranty?
Yeah, great question, David. So I think what we're seeing the most of in terms of panels being, fully decommissioned is really leaning towards that repower source. So we're seeing a lot of repower projects. I'd say most of those are closer to that 10 to 15 year mark. A lot of times it aligns with having to switch an inverter out. But there are a lot of projects that are starting to turn within that time frame, and I think it's just the need and demand to upgrade and have more power and have a more efficient system has been key. If you think, I started in the industry in 2008, and the first panel I sold was the top of the line, I think Kia Sarah 175, and it was going for, I don't know, $1.80, $1.75 a watt. Well, we've come a long ways and since 2008 to where we can get much higher wattage for much less cost. So I think financially it's starting to model out for companies to make that shift.
Gotcha. Okay, well, thank you. That's a great answer. Now, our next question, this comes from Steve Feinberg from Blue Water Battery Logistics. Would you go over packaging solar panels that are removed? And do you work with batteries? Excuse me. I'm trying to read these questions.
No, you're good. Yeah. Thanks, Steve. So it's a good question. So I think packaging of solar panels that have been removed kind of leans back on our tip with handle with care, right? Take time to really remove the solar panels. So there's no damage, there's no cracks. There's no cut connectors. That's really where we're able to pay the most money for these solar panels, is when we have, really excellent condition solar panels. And then we also, as a part of our proposal, what we put proposals out to people to take their solar panels is we offer packing instructions. So the best, most efficient way is to put those panels on a pallet, depending on the wattage, the size, the location, how far they need to go, and how many panels you have. We can do that assessment with you. And then on the battery side, so I'm really excited to be a part of TerraPower now, because they have extensive understanding and knowledge around batteries. What TerraPower is doing is they're handling EV batteries. And they do this throughout the US as well as internationally. We've got locations in Arizona, Pennsylvania, Florida, Detroit, even Barcelona. And what we really believe in as an organization is the full circular economy. So we take it from mobility power to stationary power for solar panels and batteries, all the way to the solar power.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic. All right, so let's move on to the next question, because we have a few lining up. And again, we'd like to answer all these questions, and many of them are flowing in, and we'll do our very best. We'll answer some questions online or on the presentation, and then we'll follow up directly with the other ones. The next question comes from Nick Goodwin-Self from Participant Energy. What trends do you see regarding the market for used solar equipment, especially transformers, inverters, and parts?
Absolutely, Nick, great question. So I know a lot of this presentation was focused on the solar panel. That's where we're seeing the most damage in demand. But we do recognize the need to handle the other parts of the equipment. We've actually have a dedicated group of engineers who are currently working on inverter remanufacturing. And we actually expect to have some solutions out into the market by the end of this year or early next year. And actually it's almost a good plug for us is we're actually looking for used inverters. So if anyone on this call, or anyone that you can refer to us, we're looking for string inverters, specifically that 30 kW to 60 kW range, that have been removed due to warranty issues, claims. Maybe there's just a replacement that you wanted to do to upgrade inverters. We're looking to source all inverter types and model types to start to do more R&D behind the remanufacturing of the different inverters we'll see come offline.
Awesome. So not just panels, but you have the goal of remanufacturing and repairing inverters as well.
Absolutely.
Oh, excellent. So good question, Nick. Okay, next question. This comes from Mike Wessner from JJD Electric. How does recycling work, and what can be recycled?
Sure. So recycling for us is the disassembly of the panel from the frame, the J-box, the connectors, the glass, the cell, the back sheets. They're broken into components and then sent to the appropriate off-takers or downstream to be repurposed. We're really working on making this an efficient process and connecting with partners to streamline this, where all of the parts of the system are going back into raw materials versus the landfill. So our goal is to have all of the recovered material be used again for new raw material.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And of course, I'm thinking back to that slide you talked about, the tips about making sure you get things in writing and putting things down, and you're following that process with everybody you work with, correct? And the suggestions for everyone else. Okay. Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. So let's move on to the next question. This comes from Lauren Bills from ARI. And she asked, can you share some specific information on project cost and comment on viable recycling options?
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. Good question. So there's many factors that go into each project that we quote. You're talking about locations, viable panels, logistics, panel specifications, age, wattage, brand. So there's not necessarily a single solution. That's why we kind of develop something specifically for each project at hand. But what we're doing, we've got a project we just did recently where we had several hundreds of panels that came offline. We were able to sort them into two piles, basically, one non-broken and one broken. Those non-broken panels we were able to ship to our plant in Tennessee for cleaning, testing, repalletizing, and any remanning that needed to be done. And then the broken panels we were able to ship directly for recycling. This customer was actually able to attain a net positive financially for the project, just because there were enough non-broken panels that we could either remanufacture or resell directly to offset that recycling cost. So that's really our goal, is to help customers achieve that. And then, there's a lot of recycling options, though what we're really focused on here is looking at, are there ways to even reduce recycling? Obviously, key is no landfill, right? Recycle before landfill. But before even recycling, our focus is the sustainable remanufacturing of these panels. Can we save the panel and put it back into play for another 10 to 15 years?
Alex, that's what the whole renewable energy is about, is reusing it, correct?
That's right.
Yeah. So I love that amount of, or I love that approach for sure. All right. Now, Alex, I know we took a lot of your time and everybody else's time. Now we have a lot of questions that came in that we can't get to at this point, but we will follow up with all of you folks. So we do appreciate the last minute online questions, but we have come to an end today. But I do want to thank you, Alex, for taking some time, especially being on the road, to sharing your knowledge about the end of life management, as well as the full package of solutions Ontility offers for repair, resell, and recycling. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone on the call. I really appreciate your time.
Yep. And of course, I want to thank our audience for joining us today. As I always tell people, that EnergyBin is in the business of connecting buyers and sellers. It's connecting you folks to people like Alex and other quality members of EnergyBin. I mean, that they can help you get to that next level or solve a solution, if it's a buy, sell solution, or if it's a recycle, repair solution. So if you're looking for a specific part, excess equipment to sell, some recycling information, contact us, contact Alex, and we can see what we can do to help you. Okay. But I want to thank you all. So I want you all to take care, and we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you. Bye, Alex.
Bye, Rob.